All right, Kaylee Wilson coming at you here with episode 7 of The Other Side, joined on the other side of the planet by Jared Thompson. G'day, Jared. How you doing over there?
Good day. Doing great. We're week 5, I think, of lockdown over here. I finally found a liquor and beer delivery service in Vegas that'll come to my house. So this coffee will be a lot more fun tomorrow morning. And that's my bright side of the day. So I'm just curious how things are going over there.
Week 4 of full-on lockdown here in New Zealand. Appearance rapidly deteriorating from a relatively low starting point, but everybody else is similarly deteriorated and also mostly locked in their own homes. So that's how it is.
Yeah, I've seen there's not the home haircut has not happened yet. It'll be next week maybe.
Yeah, a little bit of trimming and nudging, but nothing substantial just yet.
Yeah, we might have to trim and nudge some of this conversation out of the end, right?
All right, hey, into some highlights from the last week for me from this side of the globe, which actually spanning a couple of bits of the planet, but it was lovely to see Belinda Henley, one of New Zealand's senior journalists, catching up with Sean Fitzpatrick. For you, Jared, you may not know Sean Fitzpatrick, but the captain of the 1987 World Cup winning All Blacks and one of our sort of greatest players. Sean's now over in London, where he, I believe, is still the chairman of the Laureus World Sports Awards and the Laureus Association. So lovely to see Belinda checking in with Sean and mostly talking about just what was impacting him during the coronavirus shutdown, and Sean revealing that he'd been speaking with a lot of his former teammates to make sure that they were doing okay, and that through the chaos there'd been a sort of loveliness there. So some really interesting interviews that Belinda is doing, and please check out Sean. A couple of other highlights for me: Isolation Nation is cranking out some great stuff here in New Zealand, and I spoke with one of the producers there yesterday, and said you can't really go wrong with a show that's featuring old highlights of Christian Cullen, one of the All Blacks' greatest fullbacks, who looks like he was basically a slot car of a player, Jared. I said he just changed direction, but his speed was not impacted, and we'll show you some Christian Cullen highlights here. Another highlight for me, Jason Richardson. Thank you, Jason. We'll be sending you out the Blinder branded sleep mask as our announcer of the week for dropping Blinder into conversation on racing.com when you were transferring to the home of John Blanksy from the Melbourne Racing Club. So that's always meets approval here. And other bits of approval, Cardiff City Football Club. First ever football club in the world to start working with us, meaning soccer club. Gets confusing talking with Americans and other people, but Cardiff City were the first. We work with some pretty interesting people in football now, and it's been great to support FIFA and the World Health Organization on a project recently, but the originals are Cardiff City, and they've been using Blinder for their Legends Lockdown series. So Mark Denham and the crew over in Cardiff, you're still very dear to us, Mark, and thanks for all that you guys are doing there. So there's some quick highlights from here, Jared. What about you? What's been happening this week?
Well, I'd say the highlight for me this week is the half 100 or so, to use some Oklahoma speak, who joined our webinar. It was the first webinar we've done, especially since we introduced video. And I just wanted to thank a lot of our guest attendees who chimed in and threw some subject matter expertise at us. So thank you, Phil from Leeds, Jeremy from Lenore Ryan, Bo White from COSIDA. Appreciate your contributions a lot. And for those of you who couldn't join, we talked a little bit about how remote workers in the U.S., especially in the sports industry, are coping and thriving as well as essential workers from home, from their couches. And coming shortly, we'll have an Australia-focused one that'll kind of describe some of the innovation and disruption Australia, Asian, and New Zealand media are doing. A lot of that focusing around sport. Kaylee, obviously, Isolation Nation comes to mind. Netball IsoZone is a few others, and some of those things. You can remind me what else we've been doing there, but obviously a lot of that is in your neck of the woods. So I'm excited for that to come down in a couple of weeks.
Nice. Yep. No, we Pete Locke at Queensland Cricket letting us know that 4 a.m. in the morning in Brisbane wasn't a great time for you to join a call. Was a legitimate point, and we will be doing one.
We took it to heart.
Yeah, maybe 5 a.m., 5:30 Brisbane time next.
Yeah, probably 4:15. 4:15.
Better accommodate you there in Brisbane. When it's come to innovation and disruption in sport, before COVID-19 was hitting all of us, pretty clearly coming through that a lot of the people leading that in the world were women. I can completely understand why women have been leading the charge in innovation, because they're the ones who've been most pissed off with the status quo. It's been a status quo that has seen males completely ruling the roost in far too many sports. And so, unsurprisingly, Megan Rapinoe in United States women's soccer stirring things up, and it's happening around the world. Netball New Zealand have also been, really innovative in what they're doing. But I believe you were fortunate to catch up during the week with someone who's right in the heart of that action.
Yeah, exactly. I got to talk with one of my good friends, three-time WNBA All-Star Danielle Robinson, who's, preparing for a season that may or may not happen from her home in San Antonio. The WNBA in the United States just redesigned a collective bargaining agreement that talks about all those things you did as a catalyst for change in women's sport and sport in general. Really excited for the things we talked about. They just held a virtual draft, the first, I think, that any major professional organization has done since COVID-19, and leading into NFL draft tonight, it'd be really special to get her thoughts on that, as well as what she thinks the league can do to promote women and sport.
Nice one. Well, we will be back with a webinar. We'll be back with another episode of The Other Side. I really encourage you to check out the full interview with Danielle Robinson that Jared has done. And we'll see you again shortly. I'm not sure if we'll be better in appearance, Jared, but we'll find out, won't we?
We'll have changed, at least something. Yep, that's all from us for now. Stay tuned for our conversation with Danielle. Thank you.
One of my great friends of all time is here, three-time WNBA All-Star Danielle Robinson, coming to us from I assume this is a dining room in your house in San Antonio. Let me know if I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
What room are you escaping COVID in? It's the living room. Okay, well, you're one of the first people I've actually talked to on a video call in their living room. Most people set up in the kitchen or the dining room or wherever. So, all right. So, what's been happening, Danielle? It's been a while.
Yeah, honestly, just been enjoying my house right now. This is the longest that I've been home in years since I'm overseas, and then once I'm done with overseas, I head straight into the WNBA. So. It's been nice to be home and actually enjoy my property, also work on the property, get little things done here and there. But yeah, just, trying to find that balance right now for me between working out and resting, because, you're overseas, you practice twice a day, and then, you take 8-hour bus rides, 10-hour bus rides. And now it's like, how much I want to work out right now, not knowing, when things are going to happen. But yeah, that's basically it. Just been at home chilling.
And that's one of the reasons I was excited to have you on, is because, a WNBA player is more like, a lot of the international audience would be used to in terms of how they do their schedule. You're not playing in the American League, and then when it's over, you're just going on a, vacation for 3 months and then come back and work out. You're going year round, you're traveling a lot. So I imagine it was pretty scary. You were in Poland as things were heading down. Walk me through that scenario of just coming back from, what was supposed to be the championship part of your season in Poland and Europe, and dealing with COVID and coming back to America.
Yeah, well, it was tough because our team was actually just catching momentum. We were actually finally gelling, hopefully going to make a really good playoff push. And then obviously we get the call from our GM saying like, hey, the federation is going to make a decision about the season. And we were like, okay. But then I got a call, like it was Thursday, the 12th of March. My mom was like, hey, you need to get on a flight. I was like, it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
You're going.
Exactly. I was like, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, Mom. What's going on? And she was like, Trump just put a ban on. Like, you have to be back by Friday, the 13th at midnight. And I'm like, it's 2 a.m. on March 12th. That's tomorrow. I'm like, we're supposed to have a game on Saturday. So she's like, no, tell them you need to get back. Like, forget the game. I don't care. Like, you're getting on a flight. And I was like, okay. So I'm like, I'm asleep, and then we'll talk about this later. So anyways, they ended up canceling the season, and they got us out at like a 6 a.m. flight on Friday. And some of my teammates stayed, like the ones that were European. They stayed till like Saturday because, they could travel a lot easier, but we had to go. And so basically, we packed up everything overnight and, grabbed as many wipes and hand sanitizers as we could and masks, and got to the airport and stuff. But it was like we were so cautious traveling just because like a lot of people weren't wearing masks at that point. And there were so many people traveling back because literally that was the most Americans I've seen in a European airport ever. Like, because everybody's trying to get home, But yeah, I mean, it was fine. It actually wasn't bad at all.
That's good. Yeah, it seems like they were responsible enough to take care of you. And if they didn't, I'm sure Denise would have gotten off by yourself and grabbed you and wrangled you back home. So, like you said, you were just about to enter the playoffs. This, you'd said your season probably, I think the championship game would have been at least to like April 29th or something like that. So you guys would still be playing now if you were still there. Right. What is the day-to-day for Danielle Robinson like now? Like, what are you guys doing? Because obviously you're going to get ready for a WNBA season whenever that does happen, which would naturally be, training camp might be, the end of April, beginning of May generally. It's not going to be that. It's going to be a little later. But how are you preparing now on your day-to-day?
Yeah, well, I actually had the opportunity to talk to our trainer, and I was asking her if what I was doing was the right thing. And so she basically said yes. So my usual day-to-day, I'll wake up, obviously, and work out. I'll start running because I hate running outside, but I'm just like, if I get up early enough and do it and get it out the way, then that's just what's going to happen.
You're just like every other American in that way. It's if you don't get up and do it early in the morning, there's too many temptations throughout the day, and Netflix is just sitting right there. So yeah. Exactly. So you haven't told me one thing that's different yet. So explain for a professional athlete what's different, Danielle.
Well, right now I'm running either sprints or I'm doing like miles. Sometimes I feel like doing endurance. Sometimes I feel like just getting it out the way. Other than that, I will, come in and rest, and then I'll do a HIIT workout later. So a high intensity interval workout where I'm, squatting, push-ups, planks, all that kind of stuff. And that's basically my day. And then once that's over, I'm free to do nothing. So then I usually catch up on my shows and that's it.
Yeah. Is it, obviously I'm sure you're in contact with a lot of colleagues and teammates and things like that. Are any of them finding challenges getting workout equipment or keeping up on their nutrition just because, maybe they don't want to go to the grocery store or have a delivery, or are things pretty much just like, we've kind of figured it out and we just need to do this till we don't do it anymore?
I think now people have figured it out, but like we had all just like, I texted people like, yo, can you find weights anywhere? Like literally there's no weights in San Antonio. I promise you, like I've looked everywhere for weights, but then I asked my trainer and she was like, I think body weight for you is just fine. Like you don't need to be trying to bulk up right now. I'm like, that's true because there's no point of it right now ever.
Yeah. You don't know. You could come back in your, isolation period and look like the Hulk and have a whole different persona in the league.
Instead of Liz, they'll be putting me at the block. That's all.
Yeah. She might have a thing or two to say about that, but we'll see.
Exactly. Well, she wants to be the point guard, so we can trade.
Oh, well, that's perfect. I saw she had been playing a lot of 2K with herself, not passing it before the line. So, yeah, I'm not surprised if she comes back with that mentality.
Exactly.
WNBA had a big event already, the first virtual draft of a major pro sports league in America, if not in the world yet. What was your, I'm sure you watched it all. What was your opinion of that? What did you think? And obviously being, a top pick who went to Secaucus back in 2011, I think, and we're the 6th pick overall. So you had the whole studio presence and the interviews on site and things like that. Right. So you would know what that would have felt like for those top picks. What was your take on it?
Well, it was sad for them, not to get that full experience. I mean, of course, that I think the plus side for them was they got to have as many people around as possible. And I think that was a special moment for them because at my table, it was just my mom and Coach Cole. And so, if we would have been able to have more people, I think obviously, to have more people next to you at one of your biggest moments in your life, I think that's special. So I was happy to see that, a lot of their families, came, as many people as possible, obviously that traveled safe and felt healthy enough to get there or whatever. But I do feel bad, I think, for the whole experience because it wasn't just, about like, oh, where we're going to get drafted. It was like we had an etiquette, session. We had a fashion session. We had other WNBA players come in and tell us what the league was going to be like, what training camp was going to be like. And for them not to get that, I think, I guess you could say they were robbed. They were robbed a little bit, But I think overall, for what we could do at this moment, it went really well. To have them, to be able to do the interview still and to see their reactions was cool. Once their name was called, but overall, I think it was a special moment for them. Obviously, wish it could have been in person, but happy for them to join the league.
So, what do you think maybe went well for the WNBA virtual draft that maybe the NFL and other leagues might pick up on, or what would you like to see? Maybe it's something when we all go back to normal. Maybe it's something they can keep trying from that. Obviously, you talked about the families, but we've got emerging tech every day that makes things more and more possible. What kind of things did you feel could be something that could implement again in the future?
I definitely think, just the whole process, I think of it could happen again, if this, were to continue. I also, like I said, I think having more people around is something that could possibly be implemented in person. I think they tried it a few years back. I think when Kelsey Plum went number one, I think they had like more family members. But it was cool to see like everybody's tribe, like the people that have been there, the people that supported them and their reactions as well. Like they're screaming their heads off, just happy, whether they've seen the person grow up or have watched them in college or, just like a really, really close family friend. I think all that stuff was the best part about it.
And obviously the WNBA did something really special with the honorary picks for the three girls, Gigi and Alyssa and Peyton, who were killed in the helicopter crash with Kobe Bryant. Being a Bay Area person too, I'm sure you want, maybe not necessarily Kobe your favorite player, but obviously maybe you had an interaction or a story or something that, Kobe did that might have motivated you. What was that like to watch that and kind of, go through the past few months and have that, that tragedy happen and be a professional basketball player in this world where that tragedy has happened?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I was like, man, Kobe complains so much, like Kobe this, Kobe that. But I respected his game. Yeah. Obviously, because he's just, one of the greatest ever. But I think obviously now in our times, it was more the Kobe that's off the court, the Kobe that's inspiring, the young women, the Kobe that's supporting our game like no NBA player has ever, and I think that's the part that our game and our players are going to miss the most. Was that genuine love, that genuine support of us, of our game, not the NBA game, not the above the rim, not, that stuff, but our genuine fundamentals, our love of the game. He was seeing it through his daughter as well. So, I think that's what made it even more special. So that's I think what our players, our league, our fans are going to miss the most. He was just sitting in Vegas, watching a game, and he was traveling to Yukon. He was going up to Oregon, like just stuff that really mattered to the women's players. And I think that's the part that about Kobe that I'm gonna miss the most.
Yeah, that advocacy was really tremendous from him, and will certainly be missed. And hopefully there's some people that step up and try to fill that role in a visible spot this year.
For sure.
So let's get back on the draft real quick, and then we'll have some real talk. So I did want to ask because I my women's basketball knowledge has decreased a little bit in the past year. I used to, for people who don't know me, I used to work with you at Oklahoma, and then I went to the NCAA and ran the women's Final Four social accounts among some other things they did there. So I'm an advocate. I was in the game. Oh, whatever. I was trying not to screw it up most of the time. But I don't know a lot about these rookies like I knew about people 2 and 3 years ago. So I'm curious from your perspective, other than Sabrina, who is, the GOAT, we got a bunch of really special rookies, obviously, and a few Europeans, I think, higher in the draft this year than maybe past years. Who are you most looking forward to see play in the league?
I think the number 2 pick, honestly, Sabali. I think that she is the most game ready. I think her body's game ready. I think her game fits in the WNBA already. And so I'm anxious to see how she, fits in that on that team, what her role is going to be. Obviously, she's going to be aggressive. She's going to be dominant. So I think her and Enrique are going to be a problem.
That's true.
Honestly, so.
Another Agumake sister in the league. How about that?
Yeah, another one on the rival though. That's the crazy part. Yeah. So that's cool. Gonna be cool to see. I mean, I bet they'll be asking her like, "What's it like there? Like, what are the facilities?" You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like they're gonna try and get the inside, but they got it. They got that in Simone now, so Simone can tell them all about Minnesota.
That's true. What's the league? What's the league kind of told you about? Maybe getting started. Has there been much information come across? There was all kind of just day by day of, we'll tell you something when we're told something.
Yep, basically. I mean, it's just day by day. Right now, we know what the world knows, and that it's going to be delayed. So, I mean, when the virus tells us that we can play, I guess that's when we'll play.
That's a good point. That might be the most salient thing I've heard about this yet is when the virus tells us we'll be ready.
Seriously.
You're pretty much onto it. I think that's pretty succinct. Yeah. So you're going to be back in Las Vegas. I'm in Las Vegas now, so this is what it looks like. It doesn't look much different than where you are. We're all indoors anyway. By the time you get here, it's going to be 150 degrees anyway. So you're gonna love air conditioning. But you went into free agency for the first time in your career. You're going to be in your 10th professional year. I won't say season, but because you have all the European leagues and WNBA and things like that. But it's 10 years out of college. You're going to Vegas. Which technically is the same franchise that drafted you, but it's in a different city with different ownership. But you do have some familiarity there. Tell me about that, and tell me about why of all the teams, you could have gone back to Minnesota. You probably had a couple other choices. You picked the Aces. What cards are up your sleeve?
Aces.
I got dad jokes now.
But I'm really excited to get to Vegas. Obviously, free agency was really exciting. I was really nervous. It was kind of like being recruited again. I was like the night before, I was like, what's going to happen? Are people going to call me? Like, are they interested? Like, how, like, am I going to get a letter saying that they want me, or
do I have to turn the fax machine back on?
Exactly. Yeah, right. But yeah, it was cool. It came down to Vegas and Minnesota. Obviously Minnesota was a place that I loved for 2 years. It was very familiar, very comfortable. But at this point in my career, I think I wanted to expand, to take a leap. And I think that's what Vegas, going back to Vegas is, me taking a leap. And, one of the things that they told me is that, they want my veteran leadership, and something that I don't always, I guess, do well is, I mean, I do it well, but communication. And so I'm like, hey, what better time to grow as a leader than asking to lead one of the best teams in the W,
Yeah.
And so that's why I think overall, like deep down, like that's why I chose Vegas. I'm along with many other reasons. I mean, the players, I played with K-Mac, I played with Dearica. Obviously getting a chance to play with them again is great. Liz, Angel, I mean, you got Plum there, you got Jackie Young, you got just a bunch of amazing, talented players. Asia, I mean, you can't forget her, obviously. Yeah. But it's a
stack team for sure.
Yeah. And it's Vegas.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of disappointed. Your reason wasn't being able to get a porterhouse steak at any time of the day at like a buffet or something.
I just want the craft table. That's all.
Well, there you go. I see you there.
Exactly. But yeah, all that combined, I think, is one of the, the reasons why I chose Vegas. I think it's a really special place. And I'm excited one of the best things I think I'm looking forward to is getting to know Vegas outside of the Strip. Everybody's like, the Strip. But, one of the things they told me is that you probably will never be on the Strip, and there's so much more to do in Vegas than the Strip. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, I'll let you know when they let us out again to do stuff off or outside of our houses.
I do want to jump up the stratosphere though. So
say, oh yeah, well sure. Yeah, we got the high roller, we got the stratosphere.
Exactly.
There's all kinds of things you do. We could take a tour of Hoover Dam if you like together. We can do that.
That's true. Yeah.
That will be less exciting.
All of the above. I'm good for it though.
Okay, sounds good. Well, we'll get everything done. So we're on the Blinder podcast right now. So I do ask you a little bit about your interactions with media, especially at this time of the year. But obviously what we do is try to create great conversations and make it really easy to connect. You actually connected to this before I could because I screwed up on my phone camera for a second. So clearly this is easy if the employee can't get it done as easily as the pro athlete. But I'm curious about, like, especially as a female athlete in America, and maybe even internationally, probably crosses borders, like, what's your sense of how the media treats you? Are you a commodity? Are you something that's relevant at one point of the year? Like, what's your take on it? And then where do you think where you should be, just in a general sense?
Yeah, well, I don't think we get enough media. We basically had to bully ESPN to give us the draft on ESPN. They had us on ESPN too, and then Twitter went crazy.
Oh, yeah.
It was just like, what? There's nothing else on. Like, why would we not be on ESPN?
Fair point.
Exactly. And so I definitely think that we could get more games on, especially now with how competitive the league is. Like, I feel like, there's a lot of teams that should be seen, and every night it's going to be crazy. It doesn't matter if, that team is playoff bound or not. I mean, like last year, Indiana, they weren't making the playoffs, but they are literally fighting till the end, like they're just a scrappy team that plays hard, and they need to be on TV more, things like that. And then, it's still like we're the younger sister of the NBA. It's like we're never our own commodity. I think even now it's like, well, what is the NBA? Like, we're riding on what's happening with the NBA, even though, we are the same, but not really. So I definitely think that we could get more attention for us, especially after the free agency that we had, and how the season was going to be super special, and still is going to be super special whenever it happens. But I still think more people could be talking about what's happening, and how now, especially with the draft, like how the rookies are going to affect us. And,
right.
I see more people on live and everything, but I just to see different people's personalities, I think we could be showcasing that a lot more. That's something that I've always thought the league could have done better, is not showcasing the same people all the time. But, there's so many great stories. Like, you learn, like, Cloud came out of nowhere and is now, one of the most talented people in the league with an amazing personality. And it's just like, it took her team being good to even showcase that, you know what I'm saying? So I think, there could be more done with getting everybody out there and getting everybody's stories out there, and that kind of, I think, publicity.
Certainly. What do you think, or what have you learned from, your international play, or maybe just things you've picked up as being more of a world traveler, and what other leagues and other sports do that is something you'd like to see implemented in your league?
Well, honestly, I know people hate it, like watching it. When my parents are watching our games in Europe, but like the horns and stuff, like that they use in the crowd, I think that's so cool. Like, sometimes you're like, dang, like this is super loud. Like, they don't have to say anything; they could just be blowing the horn. But I think that kind of stuff is cool. I don't think we should implement 2-a-days, so they can keep that in Europe. I don't need to do that 6 months out of the year. Other than that, it's pretty similar. We sometimes don't travel the same. In Europe we bus more. Sometimes it's cheaper, and stuff. In Poland it was a couple hours here and there, so it wasn't bad. And you get home right away. Maybe that's something we could do if we could get our own flight, our own charter, and leave after
commercial
the game.
Flights.
Exactly, but that would be cool. But I know how expensive that is, and we're not the NBA, so I get it. But that was cool what Kathy did last year when she got the charters for the two teams that had to travel with the close scheduling of the playoffs. So that was cool. We're making progress, Jared. We're making progress.
Well, that's good. Progress is good. You don't want to stay flat or go worse, go backwards.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. And after professional basketball is over, what do you want to do? What is D-Rob going to be?
This is something that been trying to figure out during this time. I think my dream is to be an NBA scout. I think what I love most is watching basketball.
Yeah.
And I love to travel, and there's no better combination in my eyes than traveling to watch collegiate players, learning about, their family, what they're made of, who, they're closest to, why they are the way they are, that kind of thing. And yeah, so I think that's my dream. How I get there is a different story. I don't know that yet. I'm still trying to figure that out. But if I don't do that, then I think something involved with community relations. I think that's something that's been tugging at my heart for the past few years, especially in the league. Was able to win, Community Assist Award this year. And so, yeah, just being out and helping people, especially the homeless community, is probably something that I want to get into. And I have, a few connections there, so we'll see what happens afterward. But I think either of those two directions, hopefully I'll end up in.
Well, so tell me about that, because I wasn't aware of that. So the Community Assist Award, you won that last year?
I won it in June, like just monthly.
Okay.
I won one of the months, yeah.
Okay, what's your philanthropy like?
So I got involved with a homeless shelter called Simpson House, and would go there once or twice a month and serve food. And then we ended up having a Links night. I got Simone to help me, and her family came from Louisiana and brought a whole bunch of Southern cooking, and we just did it up right for them, and they were like in heaven. It was like, They were like, this is the best food we've had ever. And so it was cool to see, and like literally at first it was like nobody there because it was like the first of the month, things change. And then I guess, I don't know what happened, but they got word that the
word
food
got
was there.
out.
Yeah, exactly. I swear. And it was like this crazy rush of people, but it was so fun just to see their faces and to say, oh my God, the Lynx obviously in Minnesota are everything. They're like, everybody, this is the best team in Minnesota. This is the best sports team. At least you guys win. And then it was funny though, but it was cool. Other than that, I did a lot of other stuff. I'm working with Simpson House, but like their youth, going to the family housing, talking to the kids, signing autographs, playing with them. I tried to do literally everything that they asked me to do in the community, and that's what I ended up doing. So people, I think, appreciated that about me, that it's more than just about, winning games in basketball, that, there's more that I care about, and they were able to see my personality shine through in that way. So that's something I plan to do in Vegas as well, is, leave my mark, and whatever they need me to do, I will. And hopefully I can find some homeless shelters to serve out food there as well.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. You're a star. You've always been a star. I'll leave you with one more question, if I could bother you with one more question, and that is, who in the world is the person you'd most like to have a conversation with?
I think for me, it would have to be Kim Peratt. She was the point guard for the Houston Comets, and passed away from cancer. And from when I was a little girl, I just admired her game, the energy she played with, the passion. And then when she got sick, like it was like a piece of my heart left. Like I remember crying in my mom's closet, like, no, like, and so I think that's the one person that I would have loved to have a conversation with, because I think that she was so special to that team. You can tell when, Cheryl and Cynthia, and they talk about her, like they just, she was everything to them. And so I think that would be a cool person to have that conversation with. Also being a point guard, she could teach me so much about what it takes to win a championship and how to lead superstars. I mean, that's literally what I'm about to do. Mm-hmm. So I think that would be a cool conversation.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you made me a liar, because I have to ask one more question to follow out of. And it's going to sound like a dumb question, but I don't think it gets asked enough, but especially to pro athletes. But what is it like to have fans? Like, it's got to change the way you think.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really cool. Like my fiance reminds me all the time, like, you have a lot of fans. And I'm like, do I? And she's like, yes, like you can tell, like when, like she obviously sits in the stands and she just like people adore you, like they cheer so loud for you, they're happy when you do things great, like, and so it's cool. I think that's why I've enjoyed Instagram Live because I'm able to really, really interact with the fans. You know, they're able to ask me personal questions, and I'm open with them. Like I'm gonna give you me, and that's just what that's all I can do. You know, just give you me. So I think it's special because people genuinely they don't just care about you as a player, like they care about you as a person as well. You know, it's like, how are you doing? How's your family doing? And so when you let people in like that, you know, they feel like they have a connection with you. And I think that's something that I think athletes can probably do better, you know, give people more, you know, time of their day because, you know, all they want is just, you know, to make sure you're okay at the end of the day. Like it's not, you know, yes, there are some, you know, crazy fans, but you appreciate them as well because you're like, yo, they're willing to ride for me, you know, like it's just like, but for me at first it took me a while to be like, wow, I really have fans because I'm like, I'm just little on me, like I'm just, you know, I'm not, you know, Diana or Sue or anybody, but I am D-Rob, and you know that means a lot to people, so that's cool.
That's awesome. I think that probably goes unheralded a bunch as what kind of pressure just knowing that you'd be under on a daily basis. Like it's hard enough to go out when you don't have fans and you don't want to see that neighbor and talk to them in the store.
Exactly.
Right. And then when you can run into 30 people just on a whim who you've never met before in your life but know everything about you, that's a bit of a anxiety provoking moment, I'm sure.
Yeah, it can be for sure. I mean, don't be in a rush either because you're like, hey, I'm really not trying to be rude, but I appreciate you, but I gotta go. But yeah, I mean,
most people understand that. Yeah, you do have a real life outside of basketball. You know, I'll say this: I'm supposed to host. I'm not supposed to be a biased person or anything. But I think Danielle's absolutely right. If you get fans connected with the athletes, you're going to increase engagement. You're going to increase attendance at the stands. So if all you do is shout about stats and who's next, you're really not going to promote your brand very much. So do what Danielle said, and I just repeated in my own words: is make a connection with the athletes and the fans, and get more fans for the athletes, and your brand will grow. So Danielle, thanks for spending so much time with me. Appreciate it. Give my best to your mom. Rest your family, Jonathan. Yeah. Dre's in the house, I think, and then I'll talk to you again soon. All right. Have a good one. Thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you.